Very good. And where's Mike?
Hello, teacher.
Hello. What about, well, Mike is going to get in very soon. Let's start today's class with the theory, okay? Today is Wednesday. Wednesday is theory day, so it's a lot of information. You need to pay attention because this theory will work for tomorrow's practice and eventually for Friday's video, right? This particular information is very useful for precisely the video that we are speaking because they use this strategy, okay? On Wednesdays, we are going to use our attention to learn grammar, and I will teach you grammar in an easy way, a way that you shouldn't use grammatical vocabulary, just the how can I tell you, to assimilate the usage and how, in what cases it's necessary to use each structure, right? Today we are going to learn a grammatical structure. A grammatical structure is playing with verbs, okay? We are going to learn a new way to use verbs. For some people, probably this is not new. Probably you already know how to form these sentences, and some of you will probably see this as a new structure. So let's check this out, okay? Before we go into the grammar section, I want you to observe this tweet that I got from the New York Times a couple of years ago. As you can see, the tweet goes from the May 30th, 2020, and something happened to this woman. Something happened to her, right? The tweet goes like this. It has three different lines. The first line says Minneapolis. The second line says Washington, D.C. And the third line says Louisville. The S doesn't, the S in Louisville doesn't sound, okay? Each one of these lines are the headlines. Do you know what is a headline? Who knows what is a headline?
Well, I think that it's like the title, maybe, or the important part of the sentence, or for example, in a concert or festivals, there are headliners that are the main groups.
Oh,
these groups.
Right. Headliners, but not headline. If a headliner
okay, yes,
is
but,
the most important.
Yes, I think that it's like a summary of the news, for example.
Yes.
Maybe the most important part.
Exactly, especially talking about what type of publication.
I'm not sure. We can find headlines in news, no?
In the news.
Maybe in the newspaper, to be more specific.
To be more specific, exactly. Because when you are talking about news in television, they don't have headlines because you don't read. The headline goes precisely the title on the poster. So precisely the headliner is the band that you saw in the headline, right? And in the newspapers or magazines, they are the most important news that are in the front cover, the front page in a newspaper. You see? That is precisely the headline that we are talking about. And here you have three headlines. A headline that happened in a newspaper, in a local newspaper in Minneapolis, a local newspaper from Washington, D.C., and a local newspaper in Louisville. Each one of them speaks about what happened to the to the woman. Uh-huh. But there is something very interesting because the three lines are very different from each other, you know? So we don't know what happened to the woman. Check this out. Read Minneapolis's headline. Help me, Isaac.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Minneapolis, a photographer was shot in the eye.
Good. Was shot in the eye. What's the meaning of was shot?
Something that happened previously. So someone with maybe with a gun
Exactly.
attack her.
Attack her.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you say that's a very good observation. Someone, no? We don't know
Yes.
who.
Yes, it is not mentioned in the article or well in the tweet.
In the headline,
Okay. Yes.
right? Exactly. It
Yes.
is not mentioned in the headline. Now read Washington D.C. Help me, Mike.
Washington, D.C. protesters struck a journalist with his own microphone.
What happened according to Washington D.C.?
Some people somebody protest for something, and then oh, sorry, yeah, I understand. There's somebody put or struck other person protest with microphone, maybe.
With a microphone.
I don't know explain.
That's a very an interesting part. Who struck who? First, do you know what is struck?
It's similar to put.
Kinda. Strike, struck, struck. Strike, struck, struck. This is the action similar to hit.
Okay.
That's why
Yeah.
when you play bowling, you make a strike.
Okay.
Right? So according to this...
Se desactivó el micrófono. Para volver...
Shut up. According to this headline, who struck who?
Protesters
Exactly.
is somebody struck other people is
eliminate somebody because in this particular case you have a person.
Someone protester is a somebody struck a journalist.
Is a somebody.
Yeah.
But no, eliminate somebody because somebody is a person that I don't know.
Protest struck a journalist. No?
Exactly. Protesters struck a journalist. So in this case, the criminal or the person who did the action is explicit, no?
Yeah.
Protesters.
The headline said.
The headline said, exactly. And now the profession of the woman is different, no? Because in this case, it's a journalist. Who knows what is a journalist?
Similar report?
Reporter.
Reporter.
Reporter. Report is a paper, reporter is a person, and journalist is precisely a reporter. Very good. When in the first line, she was a photographer. You see? So it's very confusing. What happens? You know, what is the woman's profession and what happened? And probably in this second line, what is the gender of the person?
Is a microphone?
No, what is the gender? Gender? Feminine or masculine?
Masculine.
She's exactly. According to the Washington D.C., the person was a man. So Washington D.C. is super confused about the situation. And then we go to Louisville, right? Read Louisville, Robert.
Louisville. A reporter was hit by a pepper ball on live television by an officer who appeared to be aimed at her.
Aim is a natural verb. Here you have ing.
Aiming.
Exactly. So what was the officer doing?
Hit by his pepper ball.
Now listen to my question. What was the officer doing?
The officer. An officer who appeared to be. The officer aimed her.
Aimed connector collocation.
Aimed at her.
Aimed at her. Exactly. The officer aimed at her. So in this particular case, who hit who?
And the reporter was okay on live. What is the pepper ball?
What is a pepper ball? Very good question. Exactly. A pepper ball is a small weapon used by the police. It's a security method to control chaos, to control a lot of people.
Okay. The police. No, well, maybe the police used the pepper ball and hit the reporter.
And hit the reporter, exactly. So in this case, who attacked?
The officer.
Exactly, the officer. So this tweet was super interesting to me because you can see that the subject is different in the 3 sentences. You see? If you analyze the news in the 3 sentences, the subject is different. And I want you to analyze. That if you think in structures, you need to check who does the action and who. Let me collocate over here. Who does the action and who receives the action. If you know what I'm talking about, and if you already had classes with me, you know that I am speaking about object, subject of the verb, usually represented in my classes with a happy face, versus object. Usually put between these two, we have the verb, a transitive verb. What is a transitive verb? A transitive verb is a verb that needs an object, necessarily. So, and what is an object? The object is the person that receives the action. So if you say, for example, I love you, the subject is I, the transitive verb is love, and the sentence is incomplete if I don't collocate the object. I love, I need a person, right? This secondary person is called the object. I cannot say I love. I love what? Or who? You know what I mean? I love guajolotas. You love guajolotas. This is complete. Guajolotas is the object. The object is the person who receives the action, and the subject is a person who does the action. Do you understand everything here? Okay, with these concepts, I want you to analyze Minneapolis headline. Who is the subject in Minneapolis headlines?
The photographer.
The photographer. Incorrect, because the photographer received. Exactly.
Oh, yes.
In this case, the photographer is an object.
Okay.
Let me put this information for you. In Minneapolis, information.
Oh, yes. Okay.
You said someone, right? Remember?
Yes, because it doesn't mention who do the action.
Exactly. The photographer is an object, and the headline doesn't mention who did the action. You see? Therefore, because we don't have a subject, this structure is called passive voice. Passive voice is a structure that gives emphasis to the person affected by the action. You see what I mean? Today's topic is called passive voice. And this is the first application that you are going to learn about passive voice. Before we go to the grammatical structure and the construction of the sentence, you need to understand the purpose of passive voice. In what occasions we use passive voice? And the first occasion in which you use it is when you want to give emphasis to the person affected by the action. Everything clear in this moment?
Yes, teacher.
Awesome.
Yes, teacher. Teacher,
Yes.
I'm going to participate here because I have a problem with my internet.
That's perfect. Actually,
thank
that's
you.
better. I prefer that because it will be problematic to have two connections at the same time, no?
Yes.
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 Precisely. No, that's perfect. That's better. Very good.
Thank you.
So that's what we are going to learn today. Today we are going to learn structure number 9. Oh, Jesus Christ, not again, teacher. In previous classes, we checked structure number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then intermediate English, we checked structure number 8. And today we are going to open structure number 9. Structure number 9 is what you see in this formula on the bottom. We have a person, then we have a verb to be, then we have a verb in past participle, and then we have a complement. This is the construction of the structure. If you see Louisville headline, you will see passive voice. A reporter, which is the subject, was hit. This is the structure that you have here. Verb to be plus past participle verb. Was hit. Hit is the past participle of hit. Hit. Is irregular. Complement by a paper ball on live television, blah, 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 blah. Okay? This is what we call passive voice. Oops. You see? There are two forms to use a verb. In an active form and in a passive form. In an active form, The active form is the natural form of the verb. Person, verb, complement. The one you have studied all your life. I jump in the park. This is active voice. I love guajolotas. This is active voice. I study English. This is active voice. A normal sentence with only one verb, right? Passive voice, on the other hand, has two verbs. The verb to be and the action verb. And you have this structure like that. The reason we use the past participle is because we transform the original verb into a description. We transform the original verb into a description. In the passive voice, the original verb is not a verb. It's a description for the, in this case, for the reporter. Yes? I think you have so many questions in this moment. So let's start with examples. Okay? Let's start with examples. Let's think about all these verbs in past participle. Okay? These verbs, look at this. Verbs about inventions and discoveries. Okay? Usually, when we speak about inventions and discoveries, we use the passive voice. And we use the past participle of these verbs that you have in front. The past participle of invent is invented, regular verb. Discover in past participle is discovered, that's a regular verb. Created, found, which is in present. What is the present of found? We corrected yesterday.
Find.
Yeah, so present find and past participle found. Designed is regular. Inspired is regular. Built. What is the present of the verb built?
You.
Build.
Yes, of course. Build in present, built in past. Participle. Made in past participle, but in present,
Make.
make. Very good. Crafted. This is a regular verb. In present is craft. Who knows what is craft?
I'm not sure, but it's something that is made with the two hands, maybe. Like how do I say? No, it's something like the things that you can buy when you go to a touristic place, like some or
Artisan.
just, but I don't know how, I don't remember how to say it.
But in English, not in Spanish.
Yes.
My hand?
Artist by hand. Exactly,
Yeah.
Michael. Michael said by hand.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you the surprise. In English, is crafts as a noun.
Yes. But I think that it's something difficult to define the thing with the same word.
Well, you can use Michael's description.
Yes.
A craft is
Yes.
something made by hand.
Yes.
And if you analyze, you use the verb made, which is the past participle of make. Automatically, you're using passive voice.
Yes, I get used to it. I use a lot at work.
That's okay. Give me an application on work. I'm very interested on that. In what cases do you use this structure?
Well, my main task at work is to pay the tuition fee to schools. So sometimes I notify the parents that already, for example, the tuition fee was covered by the embassy 1 week ago or something like that, when I notify them about the payments.
Oh, covered. Yeah, that's an excellent example. The tuition fee was covered by the government. What an excellent
Yeah.
passive voice. That's a classic one. Very good. And that's something very interesting. If you think of chunks or collocations, the connector for passive voice. What is the connector for passive voice always usually used?
By?
Yes, of course. Let's include that information here. Usually, as a chunk, we use the connector by. Take a note, guys. Oh no, it's not here. It should be over here in the passive voice section. So yes, very good, very nice. Use it a lot. I'm gonna show you how the reason you use it a lot in the work in your office is because you are talking about the government or an authority. Usually, when we talk in English about authorities, we use the passive voice. You see? Why? Because I don't know. It's a natural construction.
Yes. Well, maybe it sounds more like formal, but I'm not sure.
People may think that, but really it's not
Yeah.
because it's formal.
No.
No, there are a lot of informal applications when you use passive voice. So it's nice that you consider it formal, but it's not really like that. In a normal speech, we usually use it. So that's exactly a good question. In what cases do we use passive voice? Well, when you are talking about authorities, we use it. When we are talking about inventions and discoveries, we give like the protagonism goes to the telephone in the case of the example that I have here. When did Alexander Graham Bell invent the telephone? Right? In this case, Alexander Graham Bell is a protagonist. But if you see the other example, when was the telephone invented? Oh, who is the protagonist in this case?
The date?
Kinda, no, because we can win a subject.
The telephone.
Oh, well,
Exactly. In this case, it's the telephone. The telephone is our protagonist of the story.
yes.
When on the other side, it was Alexander Graham Bell. You see? So
Yes.
technically, this is used when you talk about authorities. The protagonist is you because the authority is implicit. If you talk about inventions, the invention is the protagonist because the person is implicit. You see? And
Yes.
there are other applications. For example, look at this. Disasters and emergencies. Crime and punishment. Inventions and discoveries, the one we saw before. Permission. Identification. Reactions. Celebrated. What? Culture or instructions. Take a note, guys. Do you get it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool. Very nice. So let's try to make examples, guys. I want you to think of a situation that fits any of these categories or situations, like conversational situations. Think about one and give me an example. Remember the structure, eh? This is the object that takes the protagonist role plus the verb to be and then the past participle. Who wants to start? Take your time. Not so much. Come on, guys, you can.
I think that I have one.
Action.
Okay, a lot of people was infected by COVID-19 virus during the last 2 years.
Okay. A lot of people was infected. That sounds good, but let's take subject-verb agreement. If the subject is plural, the action must be plural.
Well, a lot of people
Yes.
were infected by the COVID-19 virus. I don't remember the rest of the sentence.
That was the end of the rest of the sentence. The COVID-19.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Very, very good. A lot of people were infected. This is the structure.
Yes.
Very good. Very nice. Another example. Help me.
I have another.
Michael.
I think so. The new shell methodology is created by Fernando Perez. Maybe?
Yes, of course. Very good. And you need the. Are you talking in present, in past, in future? What is the time?
Present in this moment or
Kinda.
past?
No, because created is not happening every day.
In this moment?
Or in this moment, probably, but that's a little bit more confusing. Let's speak in past. How do you speak in past?
The new shell methodology was created.
Yes. By
Fernando Perez.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. That's a good one. Let me collocate here the cookie, because we usually use a connector. By. When you want to say the person who does the action, you say by. If not, it's not necessary. So let's go now with Rafa. You raised your hand. Tell me about you.
Yes. Can I give you another example?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah. For example, my cousin Charles was named by his father.
Yes, of course. He was named by his father, and that's a very good example of an informal case or an informal conversation using passive voice.
Yeah.
I was called when I played American football. I was called El Masa. No?
Okay.
And that was my nickname. That was an informal situation when you say named. Very good. Isaac, you raise your hand.
Oh, yes, I have a question. If we want to talk in passive voice about something that is happening at this moment, can we add something like is being created?
Yes, that's precisely
Okay,
the difficult structure that I had in mind.
okay, thank you.
Very good.
Yes,
And the reason it's difficult is that you have the verb to be is, but then the verb to be in past participle. Well, no,
yes,
is being, which is ing, and then created in past
yes,
participle.
yes.
You dominate
It's a
that.
little
Very
complex.
nice, eh? Very nice.
Thanks.
Good job. Is being created. Don't worry, we are going to see that construction soon, but that was precisely the thing. Passive voice can occur in this moment too. Very, very good. Robert, do you have an example?
I think so.
Action.
Okay. The bank was stolen last month by the robber.
Exactly. That's correct. Only that robber is not used when you are talking about the bank. Let me check.
Or the thing or something like that.
How do you call a person who robs a bank? No, yeah, robber. In this case,
Robber?
it's robber. Bank robbery. Because there are many. When you are talking about criminals, there are very specific names. So I have a question, but the name is correct. Can you repeat your example?
The bank was stolen last month by the robber.
Exactly. Exactly. You understand this structure very quite much.
Can I give you another example?
Please.
The Tlatelolco file is classified.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's classified. Very good. And this is an example when the authority is implicit. No, it's not necessary to say the government, it's not necessary to say the police. It's super obvious who classified.
Okay.
No? Yes, of course. Very, very good. That's why that's a very good structure. So let's wrap up. Okay? Let's wrap up. When should we say or when should we use the passive voice? Okay? Let's read this introduction. Help me, Michael.
The passive voice is used when you want to focus attention on the person or thing affected by the action. Normally, the performer of the action comes first. This
Sorry,
is the
again.
subject.
Who comes first?
The performer of the
Uh-huh.
action. The action comes first. This is the
Exactly.
subject of the verbs. And then we use the verb. The other person or thing is the object of the verbs. However, if you want to focus on the person or thing affected by the action, you make the person or thing the subject of the sentence and use the passive voice.
That's right. If you want to focus a person or thing affected by the action. Technically here, we are giving the basic fundamentals of English. Is the subject of the verb, then the verb, and then the object. This is what we are talking about. Okay? You need to know who is the subject, and you need to decide if it's really relevant to use the subject. Because when it's not relevant, you can omit it and it's faster to speak. if you want fluency in English, you should be able to speak the passive voice naturally, adapt it to your speech. Okay? In general, we are going to use this information as the summary of the class. Let's take a screenshot. Over here. This first structure is a structure of active voice, and this second structure is going to be the structure for passive voice. Object, and then the verb be, and then the verb will. Past participle verb with the chunk by. Okay. Active voice versus passive voice. Now you can screenshot this. Any question?
Not too sure.
Awesome. Anyone else? Is it simple, easy, difficult? Okay, so let's watch examples.
Cedric Diggory was murdered by Lord Voldemort.
I can't let you out, Hedwig. I'm not allowed to use magic outside of school.
Hogwarts has been chosen to host a legendary event.
What exactly happened to him?
He was sent to Azkaban.
Don't drink it, Ron. You could be expelled for that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Give me Harry Potter, and you will be rewarded. You will have 1 hour.
All of these sentences are informal speech, which is precisely what we were speaking about at first with Isaac. Does it sound formal? Yes, because we are not used to use passive voice in Spanish. But in English it's so common that technically this is informal. If you watch the same lines in the Spanish version of Harry Potter, you will probably listen to a Spanish active voice. When in English, they use passive voice. So this is a very, very cultural difference between one and another. Let's analyze the first one. It says here that Cedric Diggory was murdered by Lord Voldemort. Here you have an explicit by, right? And you have the word murdered, right? Can you tell me why we give protagonism to Cedric Diggory?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Of course. Why do we give protagonism to Cedric Diggory?
Because Cedric Diggory is died, no?
Died. So for many reasons, no, for he died. You want to show respect. Another thing happened. The victim is more important than the criminal. No. Tell me this sentence in active voice. Who can tell me this sentence in active voice?
Me, teacher.
Action.
Lord Voldemort kills. No. Using murders.
Yes, use the same verb.
Okay. Lord Voldemort murdered Cedric Diggory.
Exactly. That's an active voice. And that sounds super different, no? That sounds super simple, super.
Yeah.
The real situation here is to give more importance to the victim in a situation like that. And that's why we use passive voice. Okay. In the next one, we have a classic, one of the most common passive voice lines in everyday. I am not allowed to use magic outside of school. This is very interesting. I am not allowed. If you think that into active voice, who is the subject in this case? I am not allowed. Who is the subject?
Magic?
Magic. Who?
I think that it is the person that is saying the phrase, no?
The person that is saying the phrase, in this case, Harry, I?
Yeah.
Incorrect. Remember that when you use passive voice, he's not the subject. He's the subject, but he's technically the object of the action. He receives the prohibition.
Okay. Yes.
The prohibition by who? That's my question.
It's not it's not mentioned like an authority, no?
Exactly, an authority. What was Robert's idea again?
The principal, Dumbledore, or I don't remember the name of the principal.
It will be Dumbledore, his authority, no? And of course, the authority of Dumbledore is the Ministry, the Ministry of Magic. So this is two forms of authority over Harry Potter. That's why we don't mention them. We don't mention the director. We don't mention the ministry. We don't mention the school because it's implicit. This is a classic one. When you want to read, this, for example. How do you read? How do you read this using English words? The first one, for example. How do you read this? Speaking about the authority.
Don't smoking?
Incorrect. Remember that we are talking about authorities. When you talk about authority, we use the verb allowed in past participle. So how do you use it when you see this?
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure. Could it be not allowed to smoke?
Close, close,
Uh,
close, close. What is the activity
No.
that we are talking about?
Smoking is
Smoking?
not
Allow
Smoking.
smoking?
Continue. Verb to be is exactly. Smoking is. Then what is smoking by the authority?
Is not allowed.
Exactly. This is the correct form to read the symbol. You see? Naturally, we say no smoking, no food, no animals. This is kindergarten English. Real English, smoking is not allowed. Cell phones are not allowed. Animals are not allowed. What is this activity?
parking.
Exactly. So parking is not allowed. That's it. These are examples of authority. Implicit authority. You see? Another. Hogwarts has been chosen to host a legendary event. What kind of application is this passive voice doing? Anyone?
A legendary
Oops. What kind of application is this passive voice
event.
doing?
Mm,
Is it present perfect? Because it's an action that happened in the, sorry?
It was not me.
Oh, I think that it's present perfect because it's talking about an action that it's talking about a decision that was made and continues like present and in that moment, no?
Well, you're using the grammatical explanation, but no grammar.
Yeah.
More like
Okay.
application. Like why are we using Hogwarts as a protagonist of the story?
Oh, okay, because we are making emphasize in the place that this event will take place.
Exactly. Very good. Very nice. Right? Who is the form of authority in this case?
Well, it's not mentioned, but I'm not
It's
sure who
implicit,
choose
no?
Howard. Yes.
That's right. So this is another example of implicit authority using passive voice. Similar to the previous example. You see? Passive voice is used when the authority or form of authority is implicit. Take a note about that. I think it is in the nutshell. Let me check if I collocated that. If you want to focus on the person or thing affected by the action, you make the person or thing the subject of the sentence and use the passive voice. No, we don't have that here. Implicit authority, let's take that as a note. Okay, passive voice is used
Event.
in two cases. No, in three cases. One, when you give protagonism to the object. Two, when the object is too obvious or irrelevant. Or three, no, well that's the second one. I like the second one. When the subject is too obvious or irrelevant. In this case, this is the one. Okay, so let's use these two references. Passive voice is used because the object is more important than the subject, or it's used because the subject is irrelevant or too obvious. Those are the two occasions when you use passive voice. Okay. Final example and final analysis. You could be expelled for that. Why is Hermione using be expelled?
Teacher, what does the meaning expelled?
Good example, good question. Expelled is when you cannot enter the school anymore. You know, you cannot enter the school. You did something super bad, so you cannot study in the school again. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. You could be expelled. So, why is she using passive voice? Anyone? Come on.
Again, the authority, no?
The authority. What happened to the authority?
I think that it's a rule. Well, the explication about the expelled, I think that it's a rule.
Explanation. Explication is Spanish.
Explanation about the expelled. I think that it's a rule of the school, and you can't take bad notes or something like that, no?
Mm-hmm. Therefore, this is an authority, an implicit authority, right? That is precisely option number 2. That's correct. There you go, guys. Passive voice. Okay, That's pretty much it, guys. This is technically what we are going to study today. Passive voice going through your conversations. All right? I want you to check if you know, and I'm going to include this particular structure in your structure handbook. In the case of Michael and Robert, you already have the handbook with you, right? Structures handbook over here. And of course, in your structure handbook, you only have structures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And in the previous level, we added structure number 8. Well, I want you to include now structure number 9. And what we are going to do to have this completely, totally complete, is to associate passive voice with the previous structures, because passive voice can exist in present, in past, in future, in using have, using past before past. So you have to dominate the previous structures so you can use passive voice in the correct form. In the case of Sylvie, Isaac, and Rafa, let me pass you this document so you can have all the different structures with you and associate the grammar correctly, right? I try to take grammar in a conversational way, so I don't use grammatical names like present perfect, present continuous, and blah 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 blah. You know, all this is confusing. I prefer to use examples and situations. In what situations is correct to use each structure, right? Today we know how to use passive voice. Okay? Make an observation, take a screenshot while Jessie passes attendance. Hello, Jessie.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So, well, the attendance is here, Mike.
Here.
Thank you, Mike. Good night. Robert?
Here.
Hi, Robert. Thank you. Rafael?
Here.
Hi, Rafael. Good night. Silvana?
Here.
Hi, Sil. Good night.
Hi. Thank you.
And Isaac, to you.
Hello, here.
Hi, Isaac. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
So, that's all.
That's all, girl.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you very
night.
much. You too. Awesome. Questions?
No.
Amazing. Did you screenshot your structure number 9?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So let me then pass you the structure handbook. I'm going to pass you the intermediate version. Okay? This one, this one, this one. Intermediate version of the structures handbook. You will see in the handbook, we have the structure number 10. That's going to be later, okay? But if you want to start studying, structure number 10, amazing, eh? No problem. Okay. Jesus Christ. Sometimes I think I am not so intelligent. Okay, let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the basic structures. 9 and 10 is intermediate. And finish. Excellent. Okay, let me pass it to you via WhatsApp. If you don't have any questions, guys, this is the end of your class. Thank you for coming. I hope you learned something. And tomorrow we have a conversation using passive voice. Study your structures because you need to dominate them for tomorrow. Got it?
Thank you,
Thank you,
teacher.
teacher.
Sure, thank
Thanks
you.
to you. Thanks to you, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
See you.
See you.
Bye, guys. See you later.